Welcome back to Cancer with Dr. Denise Ejoh, the CEO of Commonwealth Cancer Foundation, cancer awareness program in partnership with Plus TV. Together we fight, together we win. We thank you all for joining and championing the cause and voices of cancer patients across Nigeria. Today, we're going to be talking about growing up in the shadow of cancer by two very special guests of mine. And so I'm going to say I'm very grateful to both of you for accepting to come on as champions and agreeing to be interviewed at this start of March 2025. Hello, Nicole.
Hello. Pleasure to be here.
Hello, Francine.
Hello.
Okay, so my two guests are Nicole Ejoh and Francine Ejoh. I will be exploring how they perceived their childhood and teenage years and how it has shaped their lives based around my diagnosis, including the challenges, fears, and moments of resilience that they had to go through. This was my one chance, and I grabbed it to have both of them on air together to talk about it. So I may also learn and hopefully understand how they coped and are still coping, considering the disease called living with cancer is in their space. So let's start this conversation, and I'm going to introduce both of you. Nicole Ejoh is a dynamic leader with professional and personal experience in education and community involvement. Currently, she's serving as the director of the Commonwealth Cancer Champions Club, where she plays an impactful role in inspiring and mentoring individuals to reach their full potential. Nicole is also the Secretary General of the Youth Coalition Against Cancer with the NCS, Nigerian Cancer Society, where she leads initiatives to support cancer awareness and advocacy. So Nicole has also held other leadership roles across the country and in her international work. Nicole is also passionate as a math tutor, helping students build confidence and mastery in mathematics. Thank you, Nicole, for joining me, and it's great to have you smiling.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Francine Ejoh is a dedicated advocate for social change, serving as the school representative for criminology, sociology, and social policies. With inspirations to becoming a chartered accountant, she combines her analytic skills with a passion for community engagement. As a social media handler or advisor for the foundation, she plays a pivotal role in spreading awareness and mobilizing support for important causes. Additionally, Francine is also committed to education, tutoring secondary school students in mathematics. Her diverse experience and dedication to social impact make her a valuable voice in the fight against cancer. Francine Ejoh, I welcome you.
Thank you for having me.
You are both smiling. Okay, let's have fun. So let's now talk about what we're going to be talking about. Okay, let me start with you, Nicole. Can you recall, and I think maybe I should introduce the fact that I am mom. I am Dr. Denise Ejoh, and I'm introducing both of them. Both of you, I really appreciate this. I really do. I know it's not been easy to come on, but let's talk about this. Can you recall the moment you first understood that your mom had cancer? And how did it change your world? This is Nicole.
Thank you for that question. I think that's a two-part question in that I found out in two different ways. So I think the first thing I would make mention is we had suspected that something was grossly wrong for a long time. You'd had headaches for the majority of that year. So I think that was 2016. There had been, you were back and forth with headaches. So I remember you calling me and saying, oh, Nikki, I think you almost had an accident with the car. And you said, oh, I was driving along Freedom Way and I didn't see a car. So I'm going to do an MRI. I was on holiday at the time. I said, okay. A few days later, you called me back. And I think the first thing you said was, okay, I need to travel. So I said, what was the issue? And you said that they had mentioned that you had multiple brain tumors. Now, at the time, you really didn't tell us or tell me what that meant or what they had said to you. But you said, it's not looking good. I need to get on the first flight to England to address this. And I burst out in tears. And that was because I knew that something was wrong. I mean, you'd had headaches, you'd gone to multiple hospitals across Nigeria, because I think this originated when you were in Minna. So you had gone to the hospital in Minna, you'd gone to hospital in Abuja, you'd been back in Lagos, you'd gone to the hospital, and everything was typhoid, malaria, but the headaches were getting worse. So the fact that you said you needed to rush to the UK, I knew there was something terribly wrong. And so whilst I didn't know what the issue was or the magnitude or even that it was cancer, what I knew was that there was tumors in the brain, and I was, I was shaken up about it. So that's the first information of finding out that there's brain tumors. I think the second difficult process was you got to the UK and they had said to you, you have to do brain surgery. I have to look back, I'm paraphrasing. And we went to do the biopsy. So they had obviously done a biopsy of what they found in the brain. And again, at that appointment, they sat down, we were in the office in King's College, and they said, oh, Denise, I'm sorry to tell you, we found breast tissue. So that means you have some sort of a metastasis from breast cancer. Again, this is me crying. You that had the diagnosis was calm as a cucumber. I think you started laughing, actually. I think you let out a... And I think that was the reality. I think the confirmation that this was cancer and it was a metastasis, that was when I knew life is not going to be the same. For many reasons, chemotherapy, what would the treatment plan be? Francine was in school at the time in Lagos. So I think what made me cry was so many things. It's like my old life literally died at that moment. Mum is not going to be in Lagos full time anymore. So that was a huge shift. And literally since then, you've never lived in Nigeria. So truthfully, from that moment, life did change. You've never lived full time in Nigeria. I don't think you've spent more than 3 weeks in Nigeria since 2016 when this happened. And you were someone who was living full time in Nigeria. So it was a reality shock. As I said, you were calm as a cucumber. We strolled to the station, you were on the phone, you said, they said I have breast cancer. I'm thinking, okay, what do we do now? I thought of Francine because Francine was 11, about to turn, I think you just turned 12. And what happens if you're not here? And then I started to recall all the people that I knew that had breast cancer. We have quite a few family members or associates that have had it. So I'm like, okay, this person survived. This person survived. So I started, doing mental maths to figure out, well, it's breast. I think we should be okay. It was a difficult adjustment. You have to think about what is life. My old life came to an end. So I think the last carefree, I won't say summer, but life I had was summer of 2016. Come September, life changed. Treatment started for you. And since then, it's been, managing treatments as they come, but it's our new normal. So as much as it was a difficult one, I think that's how it's affected or impacted my life. I transitioned into something new. So yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. Wow. Even I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Francine, you were younger. You were in GS1 at the time I was diagnosed. I'm going into year 8 and you had to change schools. So with some of the biggest, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges you faced growing up at that age with your mom? What were your thoughts? What was going through your head?
It's funny because when you say that, challenges, that word, it just doesn't really stick with me, because I think I was very, very fortunate in the way I was brought up, in that, I didn't struggle. I was fine. I lived in a beautiful terrace house, 3-story house on Lagos Island. I went to one of the best private boarding schools in Lagos. I traveled 3 to 4 times a year. My mum was always at my big events, my awards days. She made it to my parents' evenings, come rain or shine. I think I was still very fortunate, despite what should have technically torn me down. But I guess in some ways, when you grow up so fast, you don't really realize the little challenges that you may have faced along the way. That obviously now that I'm older, I recognize, oh, that probably wasn't a normal thing to be thinking or feeling at the time. And yeah, I guess the most obvious one that comes to mind for me is, living apart from your parent, my mum, for so long, so young, was definitely difficult. My first birthday after my mum was diagnosed, when I turned 12, my mum wasn't able to make it. At the time, of course, I was a little bit sad, but that is what came with the diagnosis. But I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me in terms of challenges was definitely the anxiety. I think at such a young age, there was a full year in my secondary school that I would walk. My sister used to work at the school that I went to, and she worked at the reception. So in my lunch breaks, I would walk to her office sometimes just to say hi. And in that walk, for a good year, every single time I do that walk, I was thinking, okay, today's the day that they tell me that my mom has died. My sister may tell me this, and I just have to mentally prepare myself to hear that news. So that 4-minute walk was just anxiety ridden. I would sweat, and Lagos is hot, so I was sweating in my shirt. And I get there, and when my sister didn't say anything, there was like this breath of relief. But then they go again tomorrow, until I eventually realized that that's not going to happen. And if it does happen, that God did bless my mom and bless our family such that we're able to handle it, and that didn't happen as well. So yeah, I guess I did struggle in some ways, but I do have to recognize that I was very fortunate in the way that I was able to live despite my mom's diagnosis.
And that's quite interesting when I have to listen to that, because I never, or honestly, to be honest, I never realized that thought came through for you. Okay, because I'm going to ask this question now, Franz Nicole, and after this question, we're going to take a break. So, were there specific milestones, birthdays, graduation, special events where the reality of this disease especially felt present in your life? And after this, we'll go on a break.
Yeah, 100%. I think from the moment you find out that you have a loved one with, in your case, I don't know if it's called a terminal illness, but something that is going to be with them, you have stage 4, it impacts everything. For the first few years, as much as there was anticipation and excitement for these events, there came this scary feeling of, what if this is the last time? So off the back of what Francine said, which I didn't even know how many years later, it is the exact same thing. You look forward to birthdays, you look forward to parents' evenings, Easters, Christmas, New Year. New Year specifically was almost the worst, because you're so grateful for that year. You're grateful that, mum has made it through the whole year. God has been grateful. God has been kind. You're filled with gratitude. And at the same time, you're so anxious going into the next year, because you're thinking, I don't want this next year to be the year that, mum's not going to be here anymore. So it definitely did affect celebrations. Again, similarly with birthdays, it was mum's birthday or it's my birthday. And I sit there and I think, oh, okay, but will she be here next year? So you find yourself wanting to be very present in the now, enjoying the celebration, enjoying what it is, because you want to make memories. But it comes with an added pressure, because you're literally making those memories thinking, what if they're not here? And it's funny because there are people who don't have illnesses, don't have cancer, and they don't have those worries. And unfortunately, they don't see their next birthday. But when you have, or you have a loved one who has an illness, or has cancer, whether they live for 5 years, 10 years, each celebration, you're filled with gratitude and you're filled with anxiety of what's happening. I think once we passed 5 years, because your case, the diagnosis was 2016, we're in 2025. God has been so kind. But I think once we passed maybe 5 years, it became a new normal for me. So I've stopped living life or experiencing celebrations with anxiety. Now I'm just filled with gratitude, whatever the case may be. We don't want you to go. But we got to a point where this is our life. We've understood it. I'm not saying we've embraced it, but we have. I think Francine and I are so used to this. It's almost, can we even remember what life was like pre-2016? Like, oh, mummy has chemo at 7. Mum does this. When we're traveling, running joke in our family. Traveling with mum is not an easy thing because you have to make sure she's got all her medicines, and it's the new normal for Francine and I. So it did impact celebrations, but I think personally I've crossed the line of fear and anxiety, and now, you know. So yeah, the first few years it can be tough. You are worried, you're anxious, but you do get to a place where it is your new normal and you just roll with it.
Okay. Thank you, viewers. And let's just take a break at this point, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Just give us a break, and we'll come back to continue this conversation as we round up our conversation with Nicole and Francine. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's try and complete this conversation now. And so I'm going back onto the questions. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us on this very big conversation from two very young, vibrant ladies who have had to live the cancer journey, not out of choice, but out of determination to be there. And I really appreciate you both. And most of all, the fact that you've agreed to come together and talk about this for the benefit of other people who are going through this. So, Francine, this is for you. What were some of the biggest fears you had during this journey, and how did you cope with them? And Francine, I'm going from the fact that I keep going back, I've had to go through. I know you may not see it, but you were younger.
So for me, I guess the most obvious one is that my mum would die. I think that's the first thing most people think of when they hear, the C word. But that didn't happen. So we thank God for that. I think in the first year when that thought was most prevalent, I just used to pray. I used to sit with myself and just pray and hope that everything would turn out all right. And also realizing that I didn't have as much control over the situation as I hoped I would. So kind of just giving that control back over to the person who gave my mum that diagnosis in the first place and allowed that to happen was just one of the things that kept me most calm in that situation. I think also I was worried that my mum would live, but she wouldn't actually live, that this diagnosis would change her life permanently, that she wouldn't be able to experience life in the same way, that she wouldn't be able to show up to my wedding or, walk me down the aisle as I had hoped, or sit front row with the rest of my family and celebrate and dance. And also, I remember one time, well, this was the first time I'd seen my mum post-diagnosis in October. I visited her for half term. And I think this was the first time I actually realized how our life would change. When I knocked on the door with my sister, Mum opened the door and she turned around and I saw the scar on her head and the bald spot that was there. And I was like, my mum had a full hair of hair last month and she looks so different now. And I was so scared to touch it. And she was like, it's okay, you can touch it. And I think I was just like, she was limping. I was just like, this isn't the protector and the woman who turned a man around when he tried to rob us on the Ejoh Expressway. Like, I was like, oh, this is so different. This is not what I knew. So I think that was probably my biggest fear. I also worried that I would lose my purpose, my sense of fulfillment, because I always felt growing up that my mum was my biggest companion, that I was her handbag. And in this life, I came at such a late stage in her life to keep her company. And if she was to pass away, to leave this earth, that I wouldn't feel like I was meant to be here. So yeah, I think those are my worries. And I think as time went on, I kind of made peace with the fact that even if my mum was to leave this earth, that she would leave happy by God's grace, because God had filled her with that spirit of just being fulfilled. Like my sister said, she laughed when she got diagnosed. She laughed when they almost rubbed us on the Ejoh Expressway. She's just a joyful person. So I knew in everything she would be happy. And yeah, I just think I just filled that spirit of fear with the spirit of gratitude, and that was what helped me.
Wow, you guys, man. Okay, this maybe next time I would not be the one doing this interview. I'll get somebody else to do it. Okay, so let's round off now very quickly, and you're going to give me very quickly one sentence as we round up. First statement goes, Nicole, give me one sentence you will give to someone else who's going through this. So it's very specific. Somebody younger than you on this journey, what would you say to them?
To someone who's going through a similar journey but younger, I'd say embrace the moment. It's very difficult. I can resonate with the emotions, but just try and take each day as it comes. Don't think too far. Don't think about Christmas, don't think about a birthday. Just live each day and be there in whatever capacity that you can be. Because the best thing you can be is a support system. I think what helped my mum and all of us as a family is we lent on each other. If you spend too much time thinking they're not going to be here for this, they're not going to be here for that, you're going to be unhappy. And well, hopefully not the last few moments, but whatever the case is, you would spend those days in sadness and in some form of sorrow. I would say, please just try, if you are religious, turn to God, but also just be in the present and experience it as it's happening. Don't think too far. Don't worry about what hasn't happened yet. That would be my closing remark.
Thank you. And Francine, you're just going to give me a sentence because I'm about to finish this program. So you give me one sentence to a teenager. One sentence. Go on.
My sentence would be, your life may look different, your life may feel different, but it will be beautiful in different ways. So just enjoy that time that you have with your loved one. Don't overthink it.
I must admit, both of you, you are awesome. Thank you very much for agreeing this. Together we fight, together we win. I am unique by this journey, and so if you want to see what's going on, check us out on this will be on the Plus TV channels and on the Common Cancer Foundation social media pages. So we look forward to seeing you again next week as we continue our conversation on cancer awareness. Thank you.